Adrian Newey has changed teams before. He's built title-winning cars before. But this time, something is different. Because according to internal reports from Silverstone, he's building something F1's never seen before. Every rival technical director? Worried. Every simulation team? Chasing shadows. And behind closed doors at the FIA, there's quiet talk that if the AMR26 works, it could be the most disruptive car since 2009. But the real reason teams are afraid isn't the car. It's the man behind it, and what he's really planning. When Adrian Newey joined Aston Martin, the headline said, "Shock move." But inside the paddock, it was something else entirely. It was fear. Because people in this sport know one thing better than anyone else. When Newey gets a blank sheet of paper, he doesn't just design a car. He rewrites how racing works. And this time, he's not joining an empire. He's building one. This isn't Red Bull. This isn't McLaren or Williams. This is Aston Martin. A team with money, hunger, and zero legacy architecture holding it back. Lawrence Stroll gave him the keys. No politics. No vetoes. No, we've always done it this way. From the wind tunnel layout to the simulation tools, Newey has shaped the technical structure around his methods, not the other way around. And the timing couldn't be more dangerous. Because the 2026 regulations aren't small changes. They're a hard reset. New power units, reduced aero load, 50% electric deployment, and brand new active aerodynamic rules. It's the kind of environment Newey thrives in, where ambiguity becomes opportunity, where innovation isn't just allowed, it's rewarded. But here's the problem for everyone else. They didn't build their teams for ambiguity. They built them for refinement, for marginal gains, for extracting tenths from stable concepts. And now they're up against someone who doesn't care about stable. Newey isn't trying to beat them at their game. He's changing the game entirely. And that's why they're scared. The first warning signs didn't come from Aston Martin itself. They came from everyone else. 3 teams, each with completely different philosophies, started noticing a pattern in their simulation models. A series of anomalies, minor inconsistencies. And when they traced them back, they pointed to one problem. Aston Martin's 2026 car didn't behave like a normal car. It started with McLaren, then Ferrari, then Red Bull. Each one noticed it independently. Each one saw it in virtual races, simulation battles, and CFD overlays. And all 3 came to the same uneasy conclusion. Adrian Newey wasn't just building a new car. He was building a new logic. That word, logic, keeps coming up. Because under 2026 rules, active aero is supposed to be simple. 2 modes, controlled by a standard switch. Every car gets the same hardware. But Aston Martin's model didn't switch like everyone else's. It wasn't just responding to throttle or steering inputs. It was anticipating them. In some simulations, the AMR26 began adjusting aero surfaces. Before the corner entry. Before the braking zone. As if it already knew what the driver was about to do. That doesn't just require sensors. It requires prediction. Anticipation. A logic engine that isn't reacting to the present, but calculating the future. And that's when the paddock took notice. Because it didn't look like a trick. It looked like something new. Not illegal. Not yet. But dangerously close to something the FIA has never tried to regulate. The more teams analyzed Aston Martin's behavior in simulation, the more one name kept coming up. Newey. Because this wasn't the first time he'd done something like this. In 2009, it was the blown diffuser. In 2010, flexible bodywork that passed every test, yet changed under load. In 2021, Red Bull's rear wing controversy nearly triggered mid-season regulation changes. And each time, it wasn't banned until after the damage was done. Newey doesn't bend the rules. He interprets them, deeply. And the FIA knows it. The key issue here isn't the car. It's the absence of language in the regulation. Because while the 2026 rulebook defines how active aero must be deployed, it doesn't define how the decision to deploy is calculated. That's the opening. Article 3.10 allows for 2 modes, low drag and high downforce. Those modes must be switched via a standard FIA-controlled logic box. But the rulebook is silent on what informs the choice to switch. It assumes simplicity. It assumes linearity. And Newey? He never assumes anything. If Aston Martin built a system that feeds pre-processed data into the control unit, one that models corner entry, wind angle, tire degradation, and throttle delay, and then suggests the optimal switch timing, it would still be technically compliant, even if the logic feels like AI. But here's the twist. The FIA doesn't have tools to check that. They can see when the switch happens. They can verify that it came through the standard logic unit. But they can't trace what informed the switch. They can't monitor prediction. Only action. And that's the real danger. Because if the AMR26 is switching aero based on internal foresight, and not just driver input, then Newey hasn't just built a faster car. He's built a faster interpretation. Everyone keeps asking the same question. Will the AMR26 be fast? But that's not what scares the other teams. Because even if it's not the fastest car on day one, if the system works, Aston Martin won't need to be fast right away. They'll get there, quicker than anyone else. That's the part no one is saying publicly. Because while most teams are preparing for Bahrain with legacy testing routines, Aston Martin may only need a fraction of that time. 3 practice laps instead of 8. 1 baseline setup instead of 5. Their system will converge faster, not because it's smarter, but because it's predictive. This gives them an edge before the lights even go out. They can model track evolution in real time. They can simulate tire drop-off without waiting for physical degradation. And with their Honda power unit integrated from day one, they can manage electrical deployment through expectation, not reaction. And here's where it becomes a problem. Because energy management in 2026 isn't passive anymore. You can't afford to see what happens. You have to know, in advance, where to recover, where to deploy, and how to maintain hybrid balance through every sector. If Aston Martin's logic system helps them predict corner-by-corner power behavior, they'll out-optimize everyone on lap 1, and widen the gap by lap 20. And the worst part? There's no test for this. No protest mechanism. No black and white regulation against foresight. Because the rulebook was built to measure parts, not behavior. And what Newey may have done is shift the entire sport from mechanical design to informational dominance. Ferrari was the first to flinch. They've already begun rewriting internal switching protocols, not to copy Aston Martin, but to make sure they're not too far behind if Newey's system proves legal. They don't have the infrastructure for full predictive modeling, but they're investing fast, and it's coming from the top. Fred Vasseur has reportedly redirected simulator time away from 2025 performance runs and toward modeling energy balance under logic switching uncertainty. In simple terms, they're trying to understand a system they didn't even plan for. Mercedes is quieter. Too quiet. Their 2026 engine, the W17, was supposed to be the story this year. Early development. Thermal expansion trick. Legal compression exploitation. But now, all of that may be meaningless. If they can't predict how their own car will behave in corners it hasn't reached yet. And that's the real shift. Because while Mercedes focused on raw power and Ferrari on aero balance, Aston Martin, under Newey, focused on behavior. Not just what the car does, but when and why. Red Bull's reaction is the most complicated. They don't fear Aston Martin's aero. They've seen Newey's work up close for nearly 2 decades. They respect it. But what they do fear is that this is just the beginning. Because if Aston Martin can field a competitive car in year 1, with predictive logic, integrated systems, and data convergence out of the box, then what happens in year 2? Year 3? What if this isn't a one-season trick, but a platform? And suddenly, everyone's asking a different question. Not, how fast is the car? But, how far ahead is the concept? Because if Newey just changed the framework, then no one's catching up with upgrades. They'll need a reset. And not everyone has time for that. The AMR26 will be revealed soon. At least, the version the public is supposed to see. But multiple sources, across 2 teams and 1 supplier, have already hinted that what Aston Martin shows at launch won't be the full car. Just the shell. The real systems, the logic code, the predictive routines. Those are being locked down. Encrypted. Firewalled from access even within internal simulator networks. No surprise. If Newey really has found something the FIA didn't prepare for, he won't give it away in the press photos. And that raises the question nobody wants to ask. What if the AMR26 wins on debut? Not by out-qualifying everyone, but by outthinking them? What if Aston Martin doesn't need to be the fastest in a straight line, because the car simply makes better decisions than its rivals? The FIA isn't blind to this, but their rulebook isn't built for it. They can check legality, but they can't yet measure intelligence. And that's the gap Newey operates in. As of now, there is no official investigation. No protest. No revision of Article 3.10. But internally, the conversations have started. Because if Aston Martin shows up in Bahrain with a car that predicts the race, not just reacts to it, then this isn't just a new title contender. It's a new philosophy. And it may be the first step towards something even deeper. Because if logic wins in 2026, then 2027 won't be about horsepower or downforce anymore. It'll be about who understands the future before the future arrives.